wanting liberty for all is not virtue signaling. Ron Paul taught me this.
This is virtue signaling.
And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it.
White rage? What does that even mean? Critical race theory, which the general was defending in that clip, is poison. What is critical race theory? In a nutshell, if Martin Luther King Jr. believed that America was great, but unfortunately did not always live up to its principles for everyone, critical race theory rejects all of that. In fact, it rejects everything King stood for. It teaches that America was never great, can never be great. And if you are white, you are irredeemable forever because of the color of your skin and not the content of your character. Because CRT is so toxic and should be fought against, many conservatives seem to think that they must take the right-wing red meat position in any political battle involving race or minorities, because if they don't, it means they are woke or they are virtue signaling to the left. But this is dead wrong. Talking about white rage is virtue signaling. Wanting liberty for everyone, as MLK did, is not.
One of my heroes is Martin Luther King because he practiced the libertarian principle of peaceful resistance and peaceful civil disobedience, as did Rosa Parks did. But also, I'm the only one up here and the only one in the Democratic Party that understands true racism in this country. It's in the judicial system, and it has to do with enforcing the drug laws. Look at the percentages. The percentage of people who use drugs are about the same with blacks and whites, and yet the blacks are arrested way disproportionately. They're prosecuted in prison way disproportionately. They get the death penalty way disproportionately. How many times have you seen a white rich person get the electric chair or get execution?
I used to be a more conventional conservative, knee-deep in the culture war. Thanks to Ron Paul, I became more libertarian. Paul helped me understand that the goal should always be more liberty for everyone. The enemy is the government, not other people, and certainly not people with skin darker than mine. I will never forget the first thing he said that made me begin to change my mind on this front. The year was 2007.
And because of our economic conditions, we do need workers. But if we had a truly free market economy, the illegal immigrants would not be the scapegoat. We would probably need them and they would be acceptable. But because of economic conditions, they have become the scapegoat.
Wait, did he just say don't scapegoat illegal immigrants? Conservatives are supposed to scapegoat and demonize them, aren't we? These are invaders taking over my country, right? Aztalan, right? Or perhaps they are just human beings wanting a better life like any of us would in their situation. We have an awful crisis at our border right now. We definitely need secure borders, but we also need a true free market, as Paul mentioned. Here was Ron Paul telling me that government was the culprit, not poor people. He did this all the time.
Blacks make up 14% of those who use drugs, yet 36% of those arrested are blacks, and it ends up that 63% of those who finally end up in prison are blacks. This has to change. We don't have to have more courts and more prisons. We need to repeal the whole war on drugs. It isn't working.
Rosa Parks is one of my heroes. Martin Luther King is a hero because they practice the libertarian principle of civil disobedience, nonviolence. Libertarians are incapable of being a racist because racism is a collectivist idea. You see people in groups. A civil libertarian like myself see everybody as an important individual. It's not the color of their skin that is important, as Martin Luther King said. What is important is the character of the individual.
A large majority of whites still support capital punishment, while blacks and Latinos do not. Do you think the death penalty is carried out justly in the United States? And do you want to see it continued during your presidency?
30 seconds, Congressman.
You know, over the years, I've held pretty rigid to all my beliefs, but I've changed my opinion about the death penalty. For federal purposes, I no longer believe in the death penalty. I believe it has been issued unjustly. If you're rich, you get away with it. If you're poor and you're from the inner city, you're more likely to be prosecuted and convicted.
I, as a Republican candidate, probably am getting the most number of black votes and black supporters, and now that has to be undermined. And I do this because I attack two wars that blacks are suffering from. One, the war overseas. In all wars, minorities suffer the most.
Ron Paul was not being woke, he was not virtue signaling or being some left-wing identity politics goof. No, he was saying if you believe in liberty for all, you can't be racist. Don't segregate people and their rights by groups. This is the opposite of critical race theory. And he didn't just stop with racial disparities.
Homosexuality. Should gays be allowed to marry?
Sure.
The state says we believe in this?
Sure, they can do whatever they want, and they can call it whatever they want, just so they don't expect to impose their relationship on somebody else.
Ron Paul said this in 2007. At the time, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton opposed gay marriage. This was only 3 years after George W. Bush was reelected in 2004, largely by running against gay marriage. And all of Paul's Republican opponents that year supported a federal ban on gay marriage. So, I'm a conservative. This guy saying I don't have to be reflexively nasty about immigrants, minorities, and the gays deserve to be left alone too. Maybe uniting all kinds of people under the banner of liberty is better than stoking bitterness and resentment against the weakest people in society. I can't tell you how many people I encountered throughout the Ron Paul revolution who had the same transformation I did. We began to reject the culture war of our parents and grandparents, trading it for a better agenda of liberty for all. It was an anti-government conservative message. It was libertarian. It was certainly not woke. Those people are idiots. But it showed what the American right could be. It showed how much better we could be. Some might even call it love. It can be done. Take it away, Donald.
The future of the Republican Party is as a party that defends the social, economic, and cultural interests and values of working American families of every race, color, and creed. That's why the party is growing so rapidly and is becoming a different party. And it's becoming a party of love.
To achieve liberty and peace, two powerful human emotions have to be overcome. Number one is envy, which leads to hate and class warfare. Number two is intolerance, which leads to bigoted and judgmental policies. These emotions must be replaced with a much better understanding of love, compassion, tolerance, and free market economics. Freedom, when understood, brings people together. When tried, freedom is popular.
If you liked that video, please hit the like button and subscribe. If you don't, I will get white rage.